Well, on Monday, the United Nations Security Council overwhelmingly approved a U.S. drafted resolution backing President Trump's plan to bring an end to the war in Gaza. The measure passed 13-0, with Russia and China abstaining. President Trump's plan establishes a board of peace to oversee Gaza's reconstruction and authorizes an international stabilization force to secure the territory and dismantle Hamas's military infrastructure. Hamas, however, is already refusing to disarm. So what happens next? Joining me now to discuss this and more, Dr. Dan Diker, president of the Jerusalem Center for Security and Foreign Affairs. So let's start with this. How significant is this agreement?
The UN Security Council sponsorship, essentially, of President Trump's 20-point plan is actually marks a substantial achievement for the president. It's the first time any U.S. president has been able to coalesce the UN Security Council to endorse his plan, which the most important part of it is that it calls for the disarmament of Hamas and demilitarization of Gaza, something that Hamas continues to refuse to do. But nonetheless, that is the essence of this UN Security Council endorsement. It is not a UN plan. It is a President Trump's plan. The number one and number two mandate here is to disarm, deneuter, and completely, in a way, delegitimize Hamas as a governmental and terror force in Gaza, which poses a threat not only to Israel, but to the whole Middle East and the West. And that is why this UN endorsement of President Trump's plan is unprecedented.
Dr. Diker, I've spoken to those involved in this, and their focus is on expanding the Abraham Accords, bringing that coalition of Arab nations into relationship with Israel. But there are a couple problems with this that I think those in Israel see, and quite frankly, things that evangelicals here that are very protective of the land of Israel about dividing the land. This, as about a dozen of other peace plans that have been put forth and failed in the past 53 years, what is this pathway to a Palestinian state within the heart of the land of Israel, which is Judea and Samaria? How is that going to go over in Israel?
First of all, Tony, your question is a very important one. And please know, and our listeners should know, that Prime Minister Netanyahu, as well as the vast majority of the Israeli public, in a poll that was conducted by our organization, the Jerusalem Center for Security and Foreign Affairs, establishes in no uncertain terms a total rejection of a Palestinian state, which would essentially become another Palestinian terror state, this time in the hills overlooking Ben-Gurion Airport in the heartland of Judea and Samaria. The Prime Minister Netanyahu has been very clear about rejecting that proposition, and the Israeli public has also spoken. Having said that, unfortunately, this monster that's called a two-state solution that basically eats away at the heartland as a prospective plan of Judeo-Christian civilization is something that we have to deal with. It is a requirement that the Arab and Muslim countries that President Trump successfully coalesced in order to bring back the 20 live hostages in stage one of Trump's plan. That was required in order to do that. But from an Israeli point of view, this is a no-go. And whatever Israel needs to do, to disarm and demilitarize Gaza and disarm Hamas and protect the heartland of Judeo-Christian civilization, Israel will do. This is definitely a moment for the 700 million Zionist evangelical Christians around the world to stand shoulder to shoulder with Israel and Israel with them. Because this is definitely a moment of reckoning, and it requires moral clarity, strategic clarity, and a combined mission to protect Judeo-Christian civilization in the Holy Land, the land of Israel, and we will all do that together, God willing.
Dr. Diker, just less than a minute left. The other more immediate issue is the international peace force that will be coming in, made up of various nations, including Turkey. Erdogan says he wants to send troops. That also is a red line for Israel, is it not?
Yes, it is. That is a red line for Israel. The prime minister has already said that the Turkish regime will not be sending any kind of armed troops into Gaza because you and I know that Qatar and Turkey are Muslim Brotherhood nations, and their mission would be to protect and entrench and strengthen Hamas, not to weaken Hamas. And that is our collective mission. Hamas is a direct threat to Western civilization. It is not just about Gaza, Tony, as you know all too well. It is about, it is an attack on Western civilization and no less. That's what October 7th was, and that's what this jihadism continues to be. And we will not allow this. We will not allow this to happen. There is a lot of work that we have to do, but there is no force in the world, no international force that will disarm Hamas other than the Israeli Defense Forces. Israel has done it. Israel continues to do it and will do it, and is the only force that can do it.
Dr. Diker, we got to leave it there. Thanks so much for joining us.